here, Cobalt. Come here. Oh, come here. Oh. Hi. Oh, God. Cobalt. People want to see you. Gotta wait for people to come on the internet. Whatever. Hey. He's so angry. Cobalt. Cobalt's gonna be famous. Everybody loves him. Just waiting for people to join so we can start the Past Life Live. And for your entertainment, so you don't have to just look at me, have Cobalt. Cobalt, look. Look at, okay. Don't be pissy. Don't be pissy. Don't be pissy. Don't be pissy. Hey. Cobalt. So upset. Hey. Hello. Just waiting for people to join. I don't know how many people are going to be here on Thursday at 4 o'clock. But I have everybody's questions written down too. So we'll go over those too. So, I guess we can get started. I'll let Cobalt go free. Alright, so this is going to be a live about past lives. So, past lives, they're really interesting. So what are past lives? They are when our soul reincarnates in a physical body. And like, why do we reincarnate? Cat hair. Why do we have past lives, or why do we keep reincarnating? From what I've known, or what I've learned, is that our soul reincarnates multiple times to learn lessons. So each time we are in this physical body, we are here to learn lessons, whether that's through following our own truth, whether that's through relationships, whether that's through jobs and all kinds of things. I mean, we learn the most through relationships from my experience because my cat just paused the music. Let me... Okay. Yeah, we learn the most through relationships, and with past lives, a lot of times we have a soul group, and that's pretty much, there's souls that tend to reincarnate multiple times in similar lives, and they'll play different roles. So, like, think about like your mom and yourself. So sometimes, like, what I've seen is that people will reverse. So, like, say in a past life, your mom was your mom and you were the daughter. Sometimes that will reverse in the next one where you're the mom and the person who was your mom in the past life is now your daughter or son, doesn't matter. A lot of times we experience both sexes as well. So yeah, hope that makes sense. Also, soul contracts come into play, and soul contracts are basically, there's a couple books on them, they're really interesting. Some of them can be harder to grasp because especially if you've had trauma or something, because the basic concept of that is that before we come down into earth in a physical body, we plan everything out, almost everything. I mean, we have free will, obviously, but we like sit down with our spirit guides and souls that we're going to encounter in this life, and we plan out like possible scenarios. So like, if we do this, X, Y, and Z will happen. Oh, cool. Dancing bug. That's neat. Um, or like, so we'll plan out a bunch of different things. And some of the harder things that, at least with our human mind to grasp, is that sometimes we plan like abuse or like certain experiences for our soul to learn. And this will all tie in when we talk about other things like life themes and all that. So I'll come back to that. Let's see. I have my list here, so I'm just checking. I go over everything. And two, like with the reincarnation and past lives and things, my personal belief with karma is that it's not that we do something bad and that we have to keep reincarnating until we like fix that bad karma. It's more about just we have certain karma that where we want to balance the scales. So like, say we were really shitty to somebody in a past life. Hey, say we were really shitty to someone in a past life. And then like once we end that life, once we die and go to the other side, and then we plan to come back, sometimes we choose to be on the receiving end of that so that we can learn what it was like on the other side of that. So I hope that makes sense. So again, with the karma, it's not really that we did something bad and that we have to suffer for it. A lot of times our soul chooses to experience both sides of the coin so we can have a full rounded experience. I got Gaia, where it's like spiritual Netflix. And I listened to a couple things where they were talking about that we've all been murderers and rapists and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's a pretty hard concept to grasp, but who knows? Who's to judge? So with the soul contracts, that goes with the soul groups. So a lot of times we make soul contracts with certain soul groups. And I'm going to talk about like some of the past life experiences I've had, like I've remembered in regressions, or like you can also learn about past lives through your natal chart, your astrology natal chart. So I'm going to kind of throw in my examples because it's what I know, and hopefully that helps because I learn by like concrete examples instead of like, this is how this works. So like with the karma, parts of my astrology natal chart said, like I have a tendency to be overpowering, or in a past life, I was kind of overbearing or controlling and stuff like that. So this life, I was raised by my grandmother who was very controlling and abusive. So that I kind of see how those two are connected. Not that it makes it any easier to deal with stuff that you've experienced, but when you think of it in those, like in that way, sometimes it can help like dealing with some stuff that you've experienced in life, if that makes sense. So I'll come back to some more of that too. So what types of lessons do we learn? Personally, a big one for mine is, I kind of talked about this in the past, in the other live that I did, like speaking my truth, because I have thyroid issues. I want to do a whole live on astrology, the natal charts, but you can even find out some of that in your natal chart, like abandonment issues, speaking my truth. Again, learning self-esteem and learning to stand up for yourself, or I've seen are big themes for people. Learning to focus on like higher education, or learning to separate like home life from work life and balancing those out. Balance is a big theme. Forgiveness, empowerment, like being reincarnating to make changes and headway. I mean, hopefully there's no Trump fans here. I don't think there would be watching my thing, but like with a lot of the movements going on right now for all kinds of rights and things like that, when you talk about past lives and soul contracts, I mean, I've read some things that he's supposed to be doing this so that people can stand up and find their calling so that they can be empowered to help other people. So doesn't make it any easier dealing with some of that stuff, but Some other themes can be learning how to rely on other people and like learning to ask for help, and learning to accept that help. Um, Learning to let go of a control is a big thing for some people. Grief issues, all kinds of stuff that everybody experiences, you know? I mean, when it comes down to it, I've been a therapist for like, I can't even, like 10 years now? Over 10 years? Wait, I can't remember. It's been a long time. But I see repeating patterns with people, and it's crazy how much we are alike than different. And if we can just get the ego shit out of the way, we would all realize this. But again, we're here to learn. That's why we need the differences. Um, and if you guys have any questions, just jump in. Um, where do we have past lives? So I have heard that and read things that Earth is the hardest school. So anybody who chooses to reincarnate on the Earth, you're a badass. Because this is the planet with the lowest vibrational frequency, so everything is so heavy on this planet. So I've read that sometimes we originate from other planets, like there's Sirius, there's the Pleiadians, I don't know if I'm saying that right. There's a couple other ones, but I can't remember them. But like I know I've had experiences where I know I originated from Sirius, and sometimes people who have a super hard time on this Earth plane really originate from one of those other higher vibrational planets. And usually they choose to reincarnate on the Earth plane so that they can learn more. So like, if whatever you believe, if you're on the other side, or if you just believe it's another frequency or a different planet or place, I mean, technically the other side is just a different vibrational frequency. So with Earth, it's such a low frequency that it blocks everything. So if we're on that higher vibrational frequency, we don't learn anything. We don't learn anything if we're on that super high vibration where nothing really bad happens. So that's why we reincarnate multiple times, so that we can come to yes, the Earth is beautiful, but it's hard living in this world. Let's just be honest. So we come to this plane so we can learn those lessons, and so we can grow our soul. I've heard a couple different things too. I'm not so sure what I personally believe with it, that there's different like soul levels. I kind of have a problem with that because I feel like there's a hierarchy, and I don't really believe that any one is better than the other. But that kind of goes with like older souls versus newer souls. I don't know. I lost my train of thought. Where do we have past lives? That's where I started with that. So yeah, Earth is the hardest school. That's why a lot of people choose to come here. Hey! Because it's really tough on this vibrational frequency. How many past lives do we have? That really just depends on the person. There are older souls, and they have had a lot of past lives. Usually, like if you go like looking at like the indigo people and all that stuff, hey, like indigo kids and the crystal children that are being born now, they have had a lot of past lives. Like with the crystal children, I've read that they have had a lot of past lives on different vibrational planets, but not Earth. So they are super high. They have a lot of intelligence. They're super smart. They're super spiritual from the get-go. But then they come into this plane for the first time, and they're just like, it feels like they're hit with a truck. So it's a lot harder for them. So like the crystal children, they're very spiritual, but they're also, a lot of times they have anxiety. They have depression. And from my experience, I work with people who have trauma, and I'm probably biased, but I feel like people who have a lot of shit go on in their lives are usually older souls, because they, again, this can cause some friction, this statement, but they plan out certain things in their life because they want to learn. They they have skills from a lot of other past lives, and when they're on the other side or higher frequency, whatever you want to call it, they know that they can handle it when they're on that plane, and then they get down into earth and they're like, oh shit, like this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But you can still handle it. But I mean, along with that, sometimes people who have had a lot of more past lives do have depression, anxiety. Sometimes they do commit suicide. Again, I've noticed, like, I've worked with at least one teenage boy who committed suicide, and he was very, very sensitive, and he didn't really realize it, which sucks, but again, I do see that trend. And with the whole suicide thing in past lives, everybody has different beliefs. I've read some things that when you commit suicide, you reincarnate right away, like you're born to somebody else. And other things I've read is that when you commit suicide, especially if it's with a mental illness, that when you pass on, you go into this like cocoon thing where your soul can like recharge, which is kind of cool to think about, because that, right, I know. When you have that's a traumatic experience, so that is going to stay with your soul. So, like, even I've read and heard things too that if you commit suicide in a lifetime, that you have a chance in future lives that you might have that tendency to do that again. So that alone can cause something for you to work on in multiple lives so that you can move past that. So everything's connected. What is circle of life? I love The Lion King because it's true. Every little thing is connected. With how many past lives have you had? You can use a pendulum to figure that out. So this is a pendulum. It measures energy. If anybody does not know how to use a pendulum, you have to program it, which would be a whole other live. But for me, a yes answer is clockwise, and a no answer for me is counterclockwise. So if you have a pendulum, you can even ask it, like, general, like, how many past lives have I had? So, have I had more than 10 past lives? And so it starts to go yes. I can't remember. I wrote mine down. I think I had 40 or 50 or something. Have I had more than 40 past lives? So that's a yes. Let me hold it up so you guys can see. Have I had more than 50 past lives? Okay, that's a yes. We might be here for a while. Have I had more than 60 past lives? Okay, so that's a no. I think I had 52. Okay. So then you know it's between 50 and 60. So then you start going up by counting. So have I had more than 51 past lives? Yes. Have I had more than 52 past lives? So that's a yes. Have I had more than 53 past lives? No. So have I had 53 past lives? So there you go. That's one way you can find out how many you've had. So, like I said, how do you find out about your past lives? Well, one, I can do past life regression with you, so contact me if you want to. I can work with your price range. And like I said, you can also do it through your natal chart. So there's something called a south node with your natal chart and your north node. The north node is what you are to accomplish in this lifetime, and then the south node is stuff that you've accomplished in past lives. So like I said, part of my south node was about power and like controllingness and stuff like that. So then in this life, I had experiences where I experienced that, almost kind of like a flip-flop. You can also look at your Saturn, which I just learned can tell you about your past lives and where that is at. Also with the South Node, so for example, mine, there's different houses with your natal chart, and my South Node is in the 7th house, which is about relationships. So I have a lot of abandonment issues in this lifetime. And the South Node in the 7th house is about relying too much on other people and being too dependent on them. So my North Node in this life is in the 1st house, which is about developing yourself. So looking at your North and South Node and like what your goals are for this lifetime according to that versus what your South Node is in, that can even give you a clue to what your past life was like. And then the 12th house is the house of the unconscious, but it's also the house of the few hours before you were born. So sometimes stuff in there can give you an idea of like what some of your past life stuff was. So let me see what some of the other questions are that people had commented on. The requirements for past life regression. So there's hypnosis and then there's guided imagery. I do guided imagery regression where you get into a meditative state and you're still conscious and aware, but I just kind of lead you through something and you go on a journey in your head. Some people, it's similar to hypnosis. Some people, I don't know, I'm uncomfortable with hypnosis because I feel like guided imagery feels like people feel they can have more control over what's going on. So with that, you must be open. You cannot doubt anything or else it's not going to work. So like if you see something and you feel it's stupid, that just tells me you're not ready for it and it's gonna block information from coming. But if you're open and you just kind of like let things come in and accept what comes in, then you're gonna receive a lot more information. You must have a question too. It's kind of like, I mean, you can do past life regression without having a question, but it's more successful if you focus on something. So maybe a question could be like, where did my abandonment issues come from? Or where did my issues with self-esteem come from? And how is that related to a past life? Hello. So having a question is really helpful. Again, it's not completely necessary, especially the first time. When I do past life regression with people, I like to do a couple different sessions. The first session is usually an hour because I like to keep it a little bit shorter so people can afford it more. Because I know sometimes past life regression stuff can be like 3 hours long and it's like hundreds and hundreds of dollars and that's just crazy and a lot of people can't afford that. So and I've also found if you split it up and do a couple different sessions, each time you do it, you can go a little bit more deeper with it. And you have things to go back to that you can explore further. So like that first session, sometimes it's just about figuring out like who you were and like getting that baseline, and then the next couple sessions you can go a little bit deeper. Sometimes you don't need the other sessions. Sometimes people are so open that they just get some answers that first session, and that's great. So let me read some of the other questions that people had commented on that post. Do you find that we can heal the wounds of past lives now through things like cord cutting and such, or is it just information to have? / is it possible to clear karma or lessons from past lives? So I kind of talked about that a little bit with the karma. I don't feel like we are bad and like we have karma that we have to fix. The karma that we have is just things that we want to learn. We can heal the stuff from past lives. I mean, that's why we keep reincarnating, just to fix the stuff that we didn't get to in the past life. Like I said, with my chart, I have a history of being too dependent on people. So a lot of times when you look at your natal chart and that South Node, that's what you start off with in this lifetime. So looking back to my teenage years and my early 20s, I was very dependent on other people. I had a tendency to get in shitty relationships that were not good for me. And then as you grow and you work on yourself, you start to let go of some of that. So if you look at the issues that you have in your life, that's usually repeating patterns for you. That's usually something that you have to work on. So for example, I know the last time I did the live, I talked about some of my past stuff. I've had a lot of death in my family. My mom died when I was 8. She was an alcoholic, so there's a huge abandonment piece there. Um, there's also other stuff in your chart too that can show past lives. So I have, what is it, Pluto or Saturn in my 5th house, which has to do with children. And one of my friends just told me that sometimes that can show past life debts because maybe in a past life I was a shitty mom. So this lifetime I had the shitty mom, and now I have to go through and deal with and feel all the feelings that are associated with having a shitty mom now because I was a shitty mom in a past life. Who knows? But that can be, again, that's not to punish. That's because my soul wanted to be like, oh, I need to figure out what it's like to deal with the other side of that. It's not because I want to punish myself or because some like crazy God wants to punish me. It's because my soul chose to do that. So, we can do cord cutting stuff. Honestly, I feel like the best way to get through that is to work on your own shit. You just have to go through life, and I mean, if you're honestly working on yourself, then I mean, you're doing all that you can. Like seeking professional help can help, things like that. Yeah, exactly, like a cosmic balancing. I love that. That's a good way to put it. Um, so yeah, so like, oh, that's something else I wanted to say. So like with some of the past life stuff and how that can carry over, especially with the 12th house in the natal chart, which shows like it shows some past life stuff and then that couple hours before birth. In my chart, I think it talks about not speaking up for myself in a past life, like I was persecuted for like speaking my truth or something. And so in this life, I have thyroid issues, which is all about your throat chakra and speaking your truth. So sometimes the past life stuff can show up in physical symptoms as well. And again, that's not a punishing thing. That just stays in our energetic bodies until we figure out how to overcome it. Something else I was going to say with that, and I forgot. Darn. Okay. It'll come back if it's meant to come out. What's the best way to reach out and connect with past lives? So like I said, guided imagery. Yeah, I have Hashimoto's. Yeah, it's crazy. That's a good, that brings up something too with the Hashimoto's, which is autoimmune thyroid disease. I have found, at least personally, again, not for everybody, but most autoimmune diseases are about self-hatred and self-punishment. So sometimes working through that can start to put that stuff into remission. Since I've started working on some of that, my stuff has gone into remission, which is, it's crazy. It's all connected. So, yeah. What's the best way to reach out and connect with past lives? Like I said, guided imagery, any kind of meditation thing where you can quiet yourself and silence yourself. I recommend getting a journal. So everybody meditates differently. I meditate with a crystal circle around me because I feel like that helps bring up the energy for me, and like I can connect easier with all of the high energy crystals around me, especially quartz, because that's good for me. And I have a notebook next to me whenever I meditate, but whenever I meditate, I don't really have anything in mind. I often ask my spirit guides to show me information for like whatever I need to know at this point, or that would benefit me from the highest good. A lot of times when I meditate, I have a place that I go to in my mind, and then I kind of see what goes from there. And sometimes you can have intentions too. I mean, intentions are everything. So if you have an intention when you're meditating and ask your spirit guides or angels or whatever you believe in to show you a past life that's maybe currently affecting you right now, sometimes you can get stuff that way. Let me grab some water really quick. But with the journal, like, I have one that, I don't know if I can see, but, so I was meditating one time and I saw myself as an Egyptian with super long dark hair, and I was in like where the pyramids are, and all the pyramids had these crystals on top of them. And of course I had a cat with me because I love cats, so I know, yeah, it's funny. And writing the date down will help too. So like this was from 2/17/17. And like writing down the feelings that you have. So I had flowy clothes, like writing down the descriptions and the feelings. So I had long black hair, dark skin, I was thin, I had flowy clothes, lots of jewelry on fingers and wrists. I felt happy, content, loved, nice. People were nice to me and I was nice to them, despite having money and status. I was a healer even with my status. I was happily married, had a baby boy and cats. Then I had the pyramids were glowing, and I was shopping for crystals, and there was friendly interaction with the town merchants, and there was lavish dwellings. So whatever you get, just write it down, even if it doesn't make sense to you at that time. Because if you do your own meditations too, or if you do guided imagery with either a professional or myself, I mean, you can start to see connections. So, the baby boy, I had a couple dreams in the past where I was married and I had a baby boy. And I don't want kids this lifetime. So, like, I don't know. I also, this one I didn't draw, but I was writing down, I was a Native American, again with long, dark, straight hair, and I was with my spirit, one of my main spirit guides that I have now. His name's Ansawa. I don't know how the fuck to say it, but that's what I heard. And he's Native American. He's like, I always describe him as like this huge fucking like bodybuilder dude. And I'm like, that's so not my type or what I'm like even attracted to in this lifetime or anything. Like, it's just so funny because like the first time I saw him, I'm like, okay, that's weird. But he's like my main spirit dude this lifetime. But in this past life that I saw, he was my father, and we had a very loving relationship. And I mean, in this life, I don't have a relationship with my father. My mother and father were divorced before I was born. He was an asshole. That's a whole other story. He taught me how to be strong, and I was allowed to do many things women were not allowed to do in the tribe. But he died when I was in my 20s, and I was devastated. So I just thought it was interesting that here again, I'm young and I have a parent death. So there's the abandonment piece for me that continues to happen in my lifetimes and in my past lives. And then in that life, I was really pissed off that he was killed. And so I turned into a vengeful person, which was not good for me. I like rode around seeking revenge on the people that killed him. And then after that, like after I had that meditation, I actually I have past life cards, which I'm going to pull for people at the end of this. And I got karmic relationship, which is pretty obvious. It's about me and my spirit guide. I got wars and battles, which I went on a revenge spree. I think those are the two cards that I pulled, but it was just really fucking crazy. And then, let's see. Something else I wanted to say with that too, but whatever. It'll come back. How do you know if you have lived alongside current people or personalities in a past life? That's a good question. Have you ever met anybody, like a random person, and you're like, oh, I know you, or like, where have you been my whole life? Like, a lot of times that indicates a past life person. Like, if you just instantly get along with somebody, or the complete opposite, where you guys just completely clash, like, and there's no reason for it. That can usually tell you that you've had a past life with that person. I tend to find that people who have problematic relationships with certain people, like say you date somebody and then you guys break up and you get back together again and then you break up. and you keep going through this back and forth, and you can't find the strength to end that relationship. A lot of times that is a past life karmic relationship that in this life needs to end. And you keep getting sucked back in because your body has like cellular memories of that past life. But in this life, your goal is to end that relationship and move on so that you can do bigger and better things. Yeah, it's not fun. Like, even like my first ex, like, every now and then I'll be like, man, that sucks. Like, but it's like, there's no reason for me to think about that. But it's like, and I know it's because there's some soul crap, soul karma, or, you know what I mean? Like relationships. And too with that, if you do regression or anything, a lot of times it's just a knowing. So like, you can do a regression and see your current partner, but maybe in that past lifetime, it's your father or sister or brother. But you know it's their soul, if that makes sense. Like I said, a lot of times we play different roles in everyone's life that we like in our soul group. So you will know it's that person, even if it doesn't look like that person that you know in this lifetime, in that past lifetime. So, before we incarnate, we know the experiences and challenges to overcome. Why the memory loss? Well, then it really wouldn't be a challenge then, would it? I mean, we wouldn't really grow or learn if we knew all the steps to the plan, right? I mean, if you think about it, like, if you know, think about somebody who plays a game and they have like cheat cards so that they'll win. I mean, if you think about it that way, if you really know that you're going to win, is it really any fun? So yeah, we need to have that memory loss so that we can actually go through it and experience those feelings, because a big part of being on this plane is allowing ourselves to feel the feelings. When we numb that stuff, we tend to reincarnate again over and over again until we allow ourselves to feel feelings. Hence, by my natal chart, where I have like 4 things in Cancer. So my soul was like, you're gonna fucking feel shit this lifetime. Because in the past, I probably didn't feel so much. So yeah. How can past lives help me understand my current one? So like I said, a lot of times the difficult things that we go through in this lifetime are a direct result of our past lives. Like I said, for myself, it's the abandonment stuff. We really need to get through some of that stuff so that we can move on and like progress our soul. So that was all the questions I had. So like, I just want to talk about the process when I do past life regression with people. So like I said, I lead you through like a guided imagery where you're relaxed, but you're still conscious and awake and in control. So a lot of times it'll involve like some guided meditation where it's like you focus on your breathing, or where you like focus on tensing your muscles and relaxing them. What is the best way to overcome abandonment stuff? Inner child healing is the best. I use a book that I use with clients. What's the name of it? I'll DM you afterwards. I can't remember the name of it. It's a yellow book. But there's a couple different good books for abandonment stuff. I should do a live on that. But yeah, I'll DM you afterwards. But the abandonment stuff is just finding that inner strength, I think, and like believing in yourself. Yeah, that's a pretty complicated question. Okay. So let me see. So sometimes with guided imagery, some people experience it differently. Some people actually see stuff like with their third eye or with their eyes closed. Some people don't see stuff at all and they just kind of have a knowing. It's kind of related to psychic abilities. I mean, there are certain psychic abilities where you can see stuff, or you can hear stuff, or you can taste stuff, and then there's psychic abilities where you just know. And I believe everybody has psychic abilities, and when you get into that guided imagery and that relaxed state and do the guided imagery, you can get in touch with that stuff. Hello. So yeah, so with that, it's like if you don't see stuff, I mean, just continue to go with it and see what you get. And again, you can't question it because then stuff won't work. Sometimes people will refer to themselves as me, but not me in their past lives. So like, again, when you recognize other people or yourself, like you know it's you, but even though if it doesn't look like you in this life. Let's see what else we got here. So at the end of that, so a lot of times with the regression, like you go through certain things and then it brings up certain imagery, and then we talk about like a best time, a worst time, or a first time in certain lives, because that can trigger certain memories, or like helping you like see certain people and relationships. And a lot of times it's almost like a movie. Like sometimes like you don't know what's coming next, but if you just kind of continue to watch the scene, a lot of times things will like progress and show up for you. Sometimes though, if you don't get certain things, that just means your body and your soul are not ready for that to happen. So like one time I was working with somebody and I guess her soul was ready for this, but I kind of wish she wasn't. She remembered being beheaded in a past life and she had a lot of trauma. So you have to be careful with past life regression. I mean, you have to be in an okay place to do it because you don't want to re-trigger stuff. Deja vu, I think that's part of more of like remembering your soul contract. That's a good question. I don't know. I never thought of it like that, but it could be. I mean, I think the deja vu can definitely be a thing where, like with my best friend, like we got along like great when we first met, and we kind of like knew like, oh yeah, hey, what's up? Like, where you been? Like, I feel like I know we've been in past lives together. I even had other readers confirm it, but like when I first met her and I didn't really know her, I mean, kind of knew. So that can be kind of a deja vu thing. But in my opinion, I feel like the deja vu is mainly remembering pieces of your soul contract or stuff that's in the Akashic records. So I hope that answered your question. But yes, sometimes, like I said, sometimes if you don't remember or if you don't see stuff, that just means you're not ready or in the place for that to happen. And that's okay too. Because you don't want to screw things up. You got to be ready for it. Just like with therapy and all that stuff. There's one more thing I was going to say. Like I said, sometimes people are afraid of what they will see. So if you have that fear, again, that's going to block you. Fear blocks everything. And again, past life regression does not work for everybody. Sometimes you can really want to have a past life regression experience, but just things don't come. A lot of times if you're more creative and visual, it will come easier for you because our main first language is in symbols and colors and things like that. So that can really help. Or just like if you're super high strung and can't relax at all, then it's really not going to work. You really need to be able to get into that meditative state. Let me grab some more water. I think that's all I have, unless you guys have any other questions, but I can pull some past life cards for you if you want. If you guys have any other questions, you can ask me. I know there was something else I wanted to say, and I wrote everything down, but I can't remember what it was. So these past life cards, they crack me up. So I don't know if you guys know the whole deal with Doreen Virtue recently, but not a big fan of her now because she's denouncing all of her cards as evil and all this shit. But this is a good deck. I had to laugh when I first got this deck because the first fucking card that I pulled after shuffling the deck for quite a while was Orphan, and it goes along with the abandonment stuff. So I'm like, boom. Just got called out by a deck of cards. So if anybody wants a pull, I can pull one for you. And usually when I do past life regression with people, we do the guided imagery, and then at the end I have the person pull these cards to kind of confirm what they went through, and it usually confirms it, which is pretty cool. So would anybody like a pool of one of these past life cards? Okay, I'll pull you one. Alright. Let me shuffle them. Okay, I will get one for you too. Shuffle them on my floor over here. Like I said, pendulum use can help you figure out how many. It can help you figure out how many past lives how many past lives you've had, or if you have like an inclination of certain things. So that's something I forgot to mention is a lot of times things that we like in this life are indications of past life stuff. So when I was young, or dislike, so when I was young, I loved to sing. I wanted to be like the next Mariah Carey. Hey, so I know in a past life I was a singer. So I don't know. You just kind of look at the stuff that you're drawn to. The other things like your dislikes. So or recurring dreams. So when I was a kid, I had this recurring dream of being stuck in an elevator repeatedly over and over again, and it would give me night terrors. And I hate elevators. So I know in a past life I died in an elevator. Can't watch anything where there's I just watched, what is it? It's a show on Netflix about where she keeps dying, Russian Doll or something. And there's an episode where there's an elevator falling, and I was like, I can't watch this. I can't listen to it because it literally like gives me panic. So anything like that usually is an indication of past life stuff that you're still carrying with you. I haven't really gotten past that one. I can't do elevators. But yes, also look for the positives that you like because that can be an indication of past life stuff. So like I said, I'm a freaking crazy cat lady. I know I've had Egyptian past lives from my own meditations and then from other readers that have done that from me. Yeah. Yeah. What was I going to say? Look at your spiritual beliefs too. A lot of times people who have spiritual beliefs are a lot older souls and things like that. Or you can get these nifty past life cards and they can help too. All right, Nina, this is for you. So let me focus on your past lives. That one came out. Food and hunger. So that one just talks about having a past life where there's food and hunger issues. So sometimes that can come up as either struggling to lose weight now or like eating disorders. Or just, I feel like there's something else. I have to look in the book. Food and hunger. Okay, yeah, fears about having enough water to drink. Often just remembering the past life patterns is enough to heal the issue. It's about deprivation and how that can block abundance too. So like a lot of times if you've had a past life with food and hunger, like maybe you were a starving kid on the street or something, or like in the concentration camps or things like that. Nice, that's good. So like if you starved in a past life, a lot of times you can have weight issues in your next life because your body and your soul remembers that pain of starving and they don't want that to happen again. So that can be an indicative of that. Or like, or if you had too much food in a past life and you were ridiculed because you had all this extra weight, sometimes there can be eating disorders in this lifetime, the next one, things like that. I'll pull you one more since there's not many people in here today. I gotta start doing these later, I think. Although I'm a morning person. I don't know how people do these late ones. This one kind of flew out. Knighthood. Okay, yeah, that's another indication that the soft spot for the homelessness. Knighthood. Nice. You're a badass. I actually haven't pulled that one for someone before, so let me read the book. Knighthood. Once a knight, always a knight. You receive this card as validation of your inner knighthood. Whether you're a man or a woman in this life, you have the heart and mind of a knight. Most likely you've long had a fascination with tales and images of knights. Blah, blah, blah. In relationships and careers, you're drawn to defend those who are weak or vulnerable. You may choose a profession that puts you into a guardian or protector role. It's essential that you only work for organizations that you fully believe in. As a knight, you're loyal to those who earn your respect, otherwise you're not happy. So that's cool. Alright, let me scroll up so I can see who was next, because I probably should have written these down. Dancing Bug, I think you were next. I think? I saw yes, please. Oh wait, that was that. Oh crap. Ah! Okay, yes. Dancing Bug, you were next. And then Ramble on Megan Rose. Okay. I have a big fluffy white thing here, so I gotta move over to shuffle my cards on the floor. Okay, that only wants to get shuffled twice like that. That one came out. Ships. I've had one of these too. So ships, saying that you've had a past life on a ship. That could affect you in multiple different ways. Like for me, I know I don't like water. I love water, but I don't like it. So I know I've died and with water in a past life. So sometimes the ships can mean that. Sometimes ships can indicate being away from family members for a long time, and so sometimes that can have abandonment stuff. It can be about being a leader, because if you're on a ship, or it could be about that teamwork piece where, you know, if you're on a ship, there's a crew piece to that. Let me see what the book says. So your prior lifetime spent on a ship. As a former sailor, crew member, or ship passenger, you've had experiences at sea that have exerted an influence on the situation you're inquiring about. The question now becomes how your experiences have affected your present life. Negative reactions, such as fears and phobias, or positive reactions, such as longings to travel or special affinity for the ocean, all may have arisen in prior lifetimes. So let me pull one more for you. Well, that one came out quick. Greco-Roman. So that talks about having a lifetime in that time. Let me read the book for that one, because I don't know much about Greco-Roman history. It's about Greece or Rome. You may have noticed that you're drawn to Greco-Roman architecture, culture, and spirituality. Hello. Perhaps you've even visited areas of the Mediterranean which felt strangely familiar. Oh, here's something about deja vu. Often when we visit a place where we've lived in other lives, we experience a sense of deja vu. So that answers the one question. During your Greco-Roman lifetime, you had experiences and relationships that formed the basis for your present life situation. You also carry the knowledge forward that you gained in that lifetime. Now that you're consciously aware of your connection to this, spend time researching these ancient cultures and the spirituality associated with those places. So, I've always been in a group of people around me with dance and work. That's cool. All right, let me see who's next. I'm just going to scroll up. I think it was Paula was next. Let me see. Oh, wait, no, it was Ramble on Megan Rose. You were next. All right, so let me knock the energy out of these, and then I'll pull for you, Megan Rose, for your past life. Celtic, Megan Rose. Celtic. There we go. So I think that, is that Irish Celtic stuff? Let's see. So yeah, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, England. There can also be fascination with Stonehenge and King Arthur's Camelot. You may have learned the old religion of the Celtic lands, which involved the use of healing herbs and gaining wisdom from oak trees. Oh, the Druids. Okay, that makes sense. So that's a lot of elemental stuff and a lot of like the pagan stuff. So if you're drawn to any of that too, that can, or like nature or fairies or anything like that, that can be connected to that. Or like castles or things like that. Oh, cool. Did you have like a deja vu sense when you went there? Or, yeah, you said you went there. All right, so let's play one more. That one came out kind of quick. Biblical. You got all these old school ones. So basically it's talking about being alive during the biblical times and possibly witnessing like some of the Bible stories. So like, and sometimes that can, that's cool. That can really affect you, or you can be really emotional with certain Bible stories or like some of the old school stories with the biblical card. You got a super old soul with the biblical and the Celtic. So, hope those make sense. All right. I think then I had Paula next. Yeah. Oops. Okay. Paula. Gosh. Let's do that. Okay. Paula, I'm going to pull for you now. I got to shuffle these. It's telling me to shuffle them this way. Okay. Okay, I guess that's for Paula. Oh, 2 came out. Let me do that again. That was my error. Okay. These 2 came out. You got transportation, and you got Egypt. They came out at the same time. So I'll do the Egyptian one first. So that one's pretty obvious. I mean, you had a life as an Egyptian with the pyramids. A lot of times with the Egyptian card, there is a lot of stored memory with Egyptian times. So like, if you've ever gone to the museum and seen some of the like ancient Egyptian stuff, like I know when I went when I was a kid, I was like, I was there, like I knew it, you know? So there might be, hey Jen, there might be some connections to Egypt for you. With the Egyptian stuff, like I showed the picture from earlier too. Oh, we are almost out of time for this one, so I will end and I will come back and I'll start, I'll restart your ones, Paula, okay?